Hello, and thank you for watching Guitar How-Tos. Let's do a little something different today with this new Indio. Laid out the things I'll be using: 5,000 grit, 2,000, 1,500, 400 sponges. The frets are a little rough. It's not a big deal, but just a couple of rubs with this and that'll take care of it. First thing I'll do is remove the strings and then we'll get busy. Since I'll be using materials that could potentially scratch the guitar, I'm using a piece of cardboard for extra protection. Placing a piece of tape down the side makes for removal of the tape easier. Usually I use 2 layers of tape to tape the spaces between the frets. I would suggest that you do that. Now today I did mostly 1 layer because I'm using such light granular sanding instruments. So, but if you use something else, like today I'm not going to be using the block that you've seen me use on other videos. I'm just going to rub these by hand. But if I were to use the block, I would definitely want two layers of tape. I like to lay out what I need before I start, staying organized as I go along. It makes to save some time. So I'll start with 400, move to 15, 2,000, and the last one's 5,000. Now the other thing I want to do is count, because I don't want to stay in any one position too, longer than other positions, more than other areas. So count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Very good. Now on to the next ones and finish it up. This is very light. It's 5,000 grit, so it's barely anything. And you don't have to worry about, the frets being flattened out. These grits are too, unless you're going to sit on this thing all day long, these grits are really too fine to be concerned about that. Okay, now I feel it. There's no more roughness on these frets. Nothing. They're very smooth. Now, what am I doing? I'm taking my fingernail and rubbing across the fret. And very, very smooth. Very, very smooth. While I have the headstock free, when adjusting the truss rod, this one usually gets in the way. So, we'll see. Now watch these spacers. You want to keep them. See, this is a spacer. Some guitars have them, some don't. Okay, let's check these. I had a trial and error here. These can be finger tight. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. These are fairly firm in here. I don't even want to touch them. Oh, I'm not going to put any more pressure on this because these are on here. Well, there's one. another one. Just bring it up to par, close to par with the other ones. I don't usually tighten them this tight. These must be Monday, Friday nuts here. They were not very tight. Let's give these a little lubrication. Okay, lifting this up, getting the Vaseline under there and under here. You don't need much. You need really very little. Very little. Might ooze out a little bit when you put the string under there. That's normal. I can wipe that off if it does. Good. Generally, I like to have these firm. Good. Just enough where I can turn it with some, a little bit of effort. Excellent. Check the nut slot depth. Now I've already laid out 14 pieces of tape. I don't know if I'll use all 14. Again, we want to keep adding layers until you're slightly above the first fret with the tape. And you don't want to cover the fret. So you need the fret to go this way to feel this. These frets are small, by the way. They're not high. Not that that's bad, I'm just saying that this guitar has small frets on it. I'm getting there. They seem to. Maybe I'm incorrect. Let's see. Should be number 12 right there. And I think that's it. This is hard to tell. I don't know. I'm gonna do 13. The reason I did 13 is because it's easier to take off than to add on. So I'll just write a 13 here. You get an idea. Every guitar is a little different. Sometimes it's 13, 12, 15, 14. Most of the time it's 14 or 15. Most of the time. Push this up against the nut. By the way, when I was playing this, when I first got it out of the box, I didn't notice anything really super bad about it. I've got my jeweler's files here. These have little teeth on them, as I've said in other videos. And when the tape gets white, you're done. So the action I'm taking is, if my hand is in the way, I apologize, but I'm going, do it sideways. I'm going downward like this, and I'm also turning it so that the slot is rounded. Let's see if I move the camera. I have 2 layers of tape here. Good. Done. Move on. There's a lot of advantages to using the tape because your nut slot depth will automatically be equivalent to the radius of your fretboard. Of course, the tiny pots, dime-sized pots, I really don't care. Uh, they work. You know, it's simple wiring. It's fine. I don't know what this tape is doing here. I'm not going to remove it. It looks like the paint came up here. I'm not going to worry about that either. No big deal. Now, what I do want to do is give these pots a little squirt of cleaner. And it's not that they need it either, because they really don't. Well, let's get a cloth down. Let's get this over here. Always watch your wires. Always, always, always. I want to find that little gap opening if these little pots have them. I guess that's about as best as I'm going to get. Tiny, tiny bit. Seems alcohol based, these cleaners, because they're very cool to the touch. All right, that's what I wanted to do here. Yeah, it's a lot of work for that. And I will just share this with you. It's really not necessary. At least it wasn't on this guitar. But I did it anyway because I have the guitar open. Now let's put it back together again and take the plastic off the pick guard. sure these are all the way up to 10. Now, wide open here, and then put your pot on, your cover on rather, your knob. And I don't push these down to the pick guard. Doing so makes these even more difficult to turn. Now let's look at that tremolo. One of the first things I noticed when I tested, quote unquote, tested out this guitar is that the tremolo system is really difficult. So before I do the springs, I'm going to loosen these. I'm going to put these down so they just touch the plate. This is a front shot of the bridge. The tremolo arm would get screwed in right here, just so you have some orientation. I want to be sure that these two outer screws are just touching the top of this chrome plate. And I want these inner screws, these inner 4 screws, to be just slightly above touching the plate. That will make this tremolo unit operate with more buoyancy. Look at this screw. It's in there. It's in there. I'm chuckling because it's like, wow. All right, so let's loosen this. All right. Ooh. Oh, this is an issue. Wow, they're in all the way. It's also at an angle, these two. Okay. Let's see how it is. Still difficult. Not even a little gap here. I know when the strings go on, there'll be tension there, and it'll be a different story. And for those fathers that might get this as your child's first guitar, well, the last thing dads want to do is have work to do here, right? Some of the things I've done today is not completely necessary. You probably don't have to spray the pot, so you don't have to take the front of the guitar apart. I just do it because I have some time today to do this. I don't always do that in every guitar, but I thought I was going to start taking this one apart anyway. Now, if you don't loosen these, and your screws are all the way in like mine were, you run the risk of breaking the tremolo arm, breaking that off, and that's more of a pain than doing this. So dads, if you do get this guitar, just be prepared to loosen this. And I'm showing you how to do it, because again, once you put tension on, springs will pull this way when you put strings on, and I'll show you that as I move along. This is now able to come up in the air. See, I'm pulling it up. So you see that gap right over here? Okay, so it's looser. Now, once I put the strings on, this will probably lift up, really probably too much. So then I'll have to redo the springs, redo that adjustment again. Redo, screw these somewhat forward. It's really kind of trial and error. And it depends upon the gauge strings you use. Heavier gauges will pull this forward more. Lighter gauges, which frankly I would suggest for a beginner player, like 9 gauge, that would be what I suggest. They're easier to play, generally. And they're generally the ones that come with these Strat style guitars. These strings are loose. What I'd like to bring your attention to is the gap right here. Right over here. Now as I bring this up to pitch, you keep your eye on that gap. Now these strings are just below concert pitch. Now look how high that's come up. Now that tells me that the tremolo springs in the back have to be tightened up. Again, take your screwdriver and screw those screws in to bring this back down. Now, before I do that, I want to loosen the strings just a bit, maybe 2 or 3 turns on the key. Otherwise, the strings will be fighting what I'm trying to accomplish. Be prepared for this to be a lot of pressure. Now, I'll stop here for just a second. Some people like to block off the tremolo with, a piece of wood or something in here when they're doing this adjustment. And that's fine. And that's probably actually faster than what I'm doing now, because what I'm showing you is a trial and error approach. Whereas if you have a block that's already pre-cut, that you pre-cut maybe from another job of doing this, it will save you some time. I've just never used it. Again, that's just me. Let's turn it over and take a look at it now for a second. It's a little lower. That's good. More tightening. I'm pressing in hard because I don't want the head of the screw to strip. This is where it probably nearly should be once the strings are tuned to pitch. But what I'll do here is get them closer to pitch, and it'll probably come back up again. Obviously not in tune, and it's already raised up quite a bit. All right, after a few more tunings and tightening up the 2 screws in the tremolo claw, I think I've got it where I like it. I like it pretty even height here. Sometimes I'll go by pitch. It's good. I have it tuned up. So it's tuned to concert pitch. I'll be checking that from time to time because I do have new strings on here. So all in all, this was very, very good. Next time I change the strings, when this is more loose, I'll likely move these 2 outer springs over one more, I don't know what you call that, one more slot, let's say. I'm not sure if this triangular pattern really does help with tuning or not. I haven't noticed that over the years. I think it's just as good as putting them in a row as they used to do in the old days. My last step is to polish the guitar and then put the plate back on and provide some sound samples.